Hello everybody, so this is part 2 of the two-part series. I'm talking about the 20 candidates for the Cavan election coming up for the Dáil. And now I'm talking about the other ones about the people I wouldn't going to vote for. And now I'm talking about the candidates I'm going to vote for and why you should vote too, the people of Cavan Monaghan. But at the end of the day, as I say, and I said in the other video, it's your own opinion. If you wish to vote for any of these people, you can. It's a democratic right. I will give you why I'm voting for them. But if you disagree, you disagree. It's democracy. You're entitled to vote the way you believe, and that's what democracy is all about. But I do encourage people, the people of Cavan Monaghan, to use your vote, to use your voice, and to vote. Please do vote. I know people say it doesn't mean anything, etc., but do vote, and do have your candidate, whoever you believe in, whoever you trust. And again, it's all about trust. Whoever you trust the most, do vote for them, regardless of who it is. As simple as that. Even though I might disagree with you, it's your democratic right to decide for yourself who to vote for. So I just wanted to get that out of the way first, because I'm not telling people to do this. I'm suggesting. That's what I would say. I'm suggesting people to vote for, and I give you the reasons why. Now there is 6 candidates. I'm going to give preferences. You can go down the list just to say before I get started. You can give 1, 2, and 3, and then all the way down. You can give 20 votes if you want to do in selection of 1, 2, 3, in whichever candidate you prefer to the least preferred, etc., etc. In terms of votes. So basically, you could fill the page basically with up to 20 votes in the Cavan Monaghan constituency because there's 20 candidates. But I would talk about the 6. I'm only going to give 6 votes. So obviously the first, second, third preference, etc., and up to the 6th preference. And I will go through the candidates and who I think is the best, in my opinion, for this constituency and for the people of this county and Monaghan too, of course, and for the country too. And I'll explain why. And the first one might shock people. I will admit that. It might shock people. And it might be a good bit of disagreement over it, but I would give it, like, I've thought about it a lot, let's put it that way. I haven't decided off the top of my head. I've been thinking about this literally for the last month, and I would give a good explanation to basically why I'm voting the way I'm voting. But anyway, I'll talk to you in a second. So the first one is, and it's an independent. He's very already unknown, I suppose. There's not much information about him, but still I've heard of him before. He ran the last 2 elections for the general election. He's from up in Monaghan. He's Jimmy Savile. He's a former member of the Defence Forces. He has pledged, and this is the thing that's really got, and this is who I'm giving my 6th vote to. Particularly, he's pledged that he's going to give up a good, like, half his wage to support mental health charities in Cavan and Monaghan. So he's going to give up half his €120,000 to support, and he's pledged that he would do that. And obviously, as you know, and again, the reason why I give him my 6th vote is because, as you know, I've went through it before. I've been in a mental hospital up in Ballyfermot in Cherry Orchard way back years ago. I understand the struggles of mental health, and particularly in Cavan, every Cavan person knows the struggles many young people have went through, particularly young people in our county, the amount of suicides that happened over the last few years. It's very important to every Cavan person. I'm sure we can agree with that. Everybody in Cavan can agree on that. And there needs to be more done. We see in CAMS at the moment in Cavan, you wait 5 months for a young child to be seen. 5 months. A lot of parents had to take it out of their own pocket to pay for private counselling, and nobody should have to do that. And there needs to be some kind of change. And obviously, I do agree with Jimmy on that. I don't know much more about him than that. But on that 2 points, and particularly serving in the colours of the Defence Forces, serving this country, I'm going to give him my 6th vote. I'm going to take a chance. I don't know much else about him, his immigration policy, etc., etc. But I'm willing to give him a chance. He only got 159 votes last election, but I'm willing to give him my 6th vote. This is my 6th vote. Now I'm going from the bottom up, basically. That makes any sense. But I just wanted to say, and I do recommend to the people of Cavan to give him a preference, whichever way you want. Just give him some kind of preference, a good enough preference if you wish. It's up to you. But I would say to give him a preference high enough if you could. So this is another candidate from Casablanca, up in Monaghan, for Liberty Republic. It used to be Liberty Ireland, etc., etc. I know some people are confused. They think it's a different party altogether. No, they rebranded to Liberty Republic. It used to be Liberty Ireland, or Direct Democracy Ireland, I think too, was known at one stage. Which I don't know why they changed the name, but anyway, long story short. But this is this man here, Shane Monaghan. I hope I'm saying the name right again. I'm atrocious with names. But the reason why I'm going to give him my 5th vote, and this is my 5th vote, just to say, is because, as I say, the biggest issue for me is immigration, and that's totally up front with you. Now, I don't know much else the policies of Liberty Republic at the moment. I don't know much else, but particularly as it says in the leaflet here, particularly the main concern for him is immigration, the open borders, and I agree with this is the true statement here now, what he says in this leaflet. we can't afford another 5 years of reckless open border policies, which is what's happened at the moment, in my opinion. I know people can disagree with me, it's democracy, as I say, but I agree with them. In 5 years' time, it'd be a lot worse than what we're in at the moment, in terms of people coming in, etc., etc., because the way it's going to be a lot worse. So I will give him my fifth vote, because at the end of the day, my vote's really in terms of this election. It's going to be really at the establishment, because the establishment of this state has failed the state, and it really has. And we need a change. We need a change of mindset, etc., etc. And so that's why we give Shane Mulligan my fifth vote, may I say. So that's what I say. Apart from that, I don't know much else about every other policy of Liberty Republic, but I presume on this regard alone, I'm happy enough to vote, in my opinion. Again, other people might disagree. That's a democracy. But I will give him my fifth vote. So the next one is Mark Moore of the National Party, the National Alliance, you could call it too. Is a combination of the Irish People's Party, and I think the National Party and the Ireland First, etc., and a few independents, of course. So I will give him my fourth vote. I'm mixing myself up here. It's a lot of numbers, etc., etc., and I'm seeing a lot of numbers recently. But the reason why I'm going to give it is to say immigration is my biggest problem. It should be the biggest problem. Majority of Irish people should be. It really should. But not only that, a lot of policies of putting Irish people before anybody else, getting housing, etc., etc., should be. It's really common sense. I'm sure we would all agree. It's the same in any other country. Irish people should be housed before anybody else. It's simple as that. It's not. It might sound far right, but I think it's common sense. Whoever's on the list, the longest should be housed first, and the majority, nobody should be putting foot, particularly just landing off, etc., etc. But that's my suggestion. Again, as I say, if you wish to give it any other way, it's entirely up to you. But that's my preference for Mark Moore. I'd be giving my fourth vote. Now, we'll go into every one of the stats of each party, etc., and the candidates particularly. Because literally I'd be here all day, so I have to cut a lot of this video out just to say. So I could go on literally for 10 minutes about each candidate, but I'm sure people would probably be sick of listening to me by the end of it. So, but that's just my opinion, I just to say to people. And again, if you wish to vote, as I say, take for example, Mark Moore number 1, number 2, whichever way, if you wish. This is just my personal preference, and what I do think the people of Cavan should be looking at, in my opinion. But that's my number 4 vote. So the next person you probably have heard of before, I talked about during the local authority elections when I was in Finland too at the time. I was keeping up to date with the local authority elections. And the way the media described them, I suppose, in Cavan, and particularly everybody really around the county, obviously a first-time newcomer during the two elections back, the local authority elections, in the Ballygymstuff Municipal Authority, for the council elections just back a while ago. It was Lester Gord, who was an independent, and obviously his main priority was immigration, etc., etc., controlled borders, etc., etc. And a lot of people suppose he's done very, very well for a first-time candidate, and I was very surprised, and I'm happy to see an independent man do well. And he did do well. Unfortunately, didn't gain his seat in the council, but he did do very well. He was very closely nearly elected, and the people in Belgium stuff, the electorate, the councillors were probably shaking in their boots a bit, because nobody really expected to get it. It was about 1,500 or so votes, something like that. It was a lot of votes, and he nearly got elected. He missed out by probably a few hundred votes, but he done very, very well, and obviously being an independent man too. And obviously, if I was going to the election, etc., I'd be an independent man, so I get it, I understand it, and particularly some of the issues he's raised. I can go through a lot of the other stuff in his list, I suppose you would say. But literally, I could be here all day, and I would agree with a lot of the stuff in terms of different things, in terms of roads, etc., etc. I agree 100%. But particularly immigration, etc., etc. And obviously, because he did very well in the last election, he has a very good chance of gaining a good few votes in this election, particularly around the Ballygymstuff area. Not so much maybe in Monaghan, but he has a very good chance of getting in. So that's why I'm going to give him my third vote. And I do encourage people to vote for Lester Gordon, particularly an independent man. It's not easy being an independent man. 1 and 4 in an election, it's not easy. You don't have a backing of a party. It's not an easy gig. But I do suggest to people to give him a vote any way you wish. If you wish, I can give him my third preference vote. But I do think he's a good candidate for the county, and majority of people in Ballygymstuff seem to agree with that, because again, he nearly got elected to the council on his first ever time being up for election. He nearly got elected, and not many people, even sitting councillors in Cavan County Council or Monaghan County Council, can't even say that. They have to go for 2 or 3 elections and then they get elected. A lot of people have to start off that way. So that's quite a good thing to have to say for the first one for election. And now then, as I say, immigration too is my biggest policy and his biggest policy too, along with other stuff, rural issues, etc., etc. But I do ask you to give him a preference, particularly again you're independent, because independents will do well in this election. I think everybody knows that. And we do need an independent in the Dáil and Cavan Monaghan. That's what we're lacking. We have Fianna Fáil, we have Sinn Féin, we have Fine Gael. We need an independent. It's been a long, long time since I don't know was there ever an independent elected as a TD for Cavan Monaghan, as far as I know. Not during my time anyway, but it'd be good to see an independent in the Dáil for this constituency. Even the part of the rural independents, take for example, with Matty McGowan, and it'd be great to see Leicester in it. But hopefully, he get in. Again, it all depends on transfers. It's Ireland system is it could really go anywhere. The transfers, etc., etc. But long story short, I will give him my third vote. Me personally, I do suggest to the people of Cavan to think about it. Give him a preference, whichever way you want to. Again, as I say, but I've outlined my reasons why, and that's supposed to be the reason why. But I do endorse, of course, Leicester for number third, of whichever way you wish, as I say. The next person I know people probably say I should probably give my number one, and I get into number one in a second, but this is number two, who I'm going to give my second vote to, is Fal Martin. You probably know him on YouTube. He's very well known on YouTube, and he's well known too in Cavan. He used to be the detective sergeant, in Cavan Town, and I'm even Clonus Stick, because I'm just up the road from me too. He's well known around this area, so he's well known for that, and obviously being a YouTuber. And particularly again, before I even heard of him on YouTube, etc., etc., I knew of him by the wind turbines. And now he's been very vocal about it, and he's right in a lot of regards that the Irish state has broken the law, their own laws and the European laws on terms of wind turbines. He's right in 100% in that, and I agree with him. And it takes guts to stand up, particularly to a state and to the European Parliament, their legislation, etc., etc., that they're breaking themselves. And he knows a lot, and now I'm not going to claim that I know everything about wind turbines, etc., etc. He knows his stuff. He generally does know his stuff. But just even listening for 5 minutes, he knows his stuff about it. And not only that too, and I'll tell you why I'm giving it, because he knows a lot. He's a farmer at the moment. He used to be a guard, as I say. He'd be great in knowing if a politician's lying to him, etc., etc. Take for example, he was in the opposition, and take for example, it's Fine Gael and Fianna Fáil back, and he know by looking at them if they're lying, he know by their body language. Because see, as a guard, you need to figure these things out if somebody's lying to you in an interrogation, etc., etc. But particularly being the detective sergeant. You need to know them skills. You have good skills. That's what I'm trying to say. Being the detective, especially for a long period of time, serving out in Clonus, as I say, many different posts across the counties. So I do suggest voting for him. And again, I can go on and on and on. But particularly again, he's very vocal on immigration, and obviously he's one of the most vocal people in this county in immigration. And fair play to him for being the most vocal about it, in my opinion. One of the most vocal. And obviously had to come back from retirement too. He's retired a long time, and he's won an election to try and save this country. So I do have a lot of respect for Fal Martin, and I do suggest to give him a vote either way, whichever. I'm giving my second preference vote, and also the two. And as he says in his leaflet here, just to say his leaflet, he's promoting he wants to promote small businesses and the enterprise economy, which small businesses, I'm sure people would agree in Cavan and Monaghan, are the backbone of our county. Whatever but the big shops, etc., etc., in the town, Little and Adderley, the small businesses, the small local businesses are the backbone of this county, the two counties. He wants to stop really the indoctrination of kids in our school, and I think that goes without saying. I agree 100% with that. What's happening at the moment in our school with the SPHEs, we need to stop that very soon. We need to put whoever's behind us nearly in prison, to be totally honest, the people that came up with this SPHE course. But and I agree 100%. And I agree with a lot of stuff he says here about keeping our farming safe, keeping transport, schools and the environment, and the rural way of life. Still keep it, basically what I'm trying to say, and crime free. I think everybody agrees, and particularly, and again, the crime, as I say, but earlier on, obviously being a former detective guard, he knows a lot about crime. He knows a lot how to deal with different skills, etc., etc. It comes with the job, I suppose, of being a detective. But again, he'd be a good voice in the Dáil for that. I really would suggest a good Minister for Justice, because again, he has a long experience working with the courts, working through legislation, knowing his legislation. He knows a lot about legislation, different things. He knows a lot about it. He's very known for that. He knows a lot. But yeah, I do suggest giving them number 2, and obviously being the YouTuber. Now we won't. I know somebody joked that the woman on the wall. He said something about her being woke a while ago, but we won't hold that against them. But I do suggest to people. I'm giving my number 2, but I do suggest to people. I've said it to people myself to give him number 1. And I'll explain why I can't give him number 1. If the other candidate that I'm talking about, the number 1, wasn't one, and I would definitely give him number 1. But I'm going to have to give him number 2. But I know I've encouraged people to vote for him. People who are in my area, there's going to be a good few people probably in this area voting for him, because I give them my encouragement and support behind it, to support him. Particularly, again, a lot of people want to hear what I have to say, because again, I've not kind of made this up, the last moment. I've thought about this over the last month. And he's good policy, and he's good in his YouTube channel, and he's right in a lot of stuff he says. He's 100% right in a lot of stuff, and what I like about him too is there's no bullshit. The same as myself, no bullshit, no scripts. Just say out what you need to say, and that's what we need. We need that. We don't need big scripts, etc., etc. And that's what we need. We need that in the Dáil. And of course, on his YouTube channel, I do recommend to watch some of the videos. If you're on the side of the people of Cavan Monaghan, please do have a look at some of these videos and think for yourself, I suppose, what you think. But in my opinion, I do think it's a good choice, and it's a good sound choice for number 2, or number 1, as I say. And I would suggest to people too, if you wish to vote for number 1. But personally, as I say, particularly, the rural way of life too, I want to keep that too. We have a good tradition in our 2 counties of being very rural counties. And the rural way is unfortunately going to the dogs nowadays, unfortunately, with the Green Party, with Fianna Fáil, Fianna Gael. And we do need to protect it. And again, he raised a good point on that, because it's not mentioned really in any other candidates really about protecting the rural way of life, because things are becoming very different, I suppose, when I grew up in rural County Cavan too. We need to protect that. We generally do. And again, I agree with 100% on the schools issues, etc., etc. I agree with that, and the small business, promoting small businesses, as you know yourself. In Cavan at the moment, take for example, just to use an example, there's so many small businesses paying huge amount in property tax to the local authority, and in business rates they've been drowned under, and then the revenue's taking money off them. They've basically been taking money left, right and centre off them, and we do need to try and stop that, because small businesses, I'm sure everybody agrees in Cavan, are the backbone of the Cavan economy. They are generally the backbone of the Cavan economy, as small businesses around here. Take for example in Belturbet, there's a few small cafes, etc., etc. Only for them, and a few small shops. Take for example where I am in Butlersbridge here, there's a small shop here. Only for that the village would be lost without the shop, and we need that, and it keeps good employment, etc., etc., and good opportunities for people. And obviously too, putting Irish families first in the housing list, it's a no-brainer really in my opinion. But I do suggest to vote for Martin, give him number 1 if you can. I do suggest it. But again, it's up to you, the people of Cavan and Monaghan, to think for yourself. You have the leaflets, I'm sure, that's gone out. But I do suggest to people to look into it. And particularly, again, just actually when I'm just there, I forgot to mention that he has said he's going to donate about 50% of his salary as a TD if he's elected to Dáil Éireann, to fight the wind turbines, the installation of wind turbines around our counties, and bring it to the European Court or the High Court. So hopefully he does get elected, because the wind turbines, again, he's well known for talking to the wind turbines. He knows a lot about it. I'm not even going to pretend to understand all the wind turbine, because there's a lot of it is a level. It's hard to describe, but he's right in a lot of stuff he says. I can go into a lot of stuff. I heard a lot of stuff he said, and it does make sense a lot of what he says. And the government are breaking their own rules, along with the European Union. They are breaking their own rules that they set out. And I do, hopefully he does, because I do think it would stand up in court, to be totally honest, if he did bring it to the High Court, and if he had to go even further than that to the European courts. I do think he would win his case on it. I generally do think. I think he has a very solid case that would be it's a very good argument, and I do think he could win the case. And it could be a huge change in Irish law, particularly in wind turbines, etc., etc. Now I could go on and on and on and on, but the one thing I would say, I'd be the watchdog for Cavan, and I think that's a great phrase too. Watchdog. That's what we need. We need a watchdog. To look over our counties, the 2 counties, to make sure that the Irish people have been looked after, etc. So that's a perfect word to use. But yeah, just say to people to give them a preference if you could. Thank you. So the number 1 photo I'm going to give, and I know some people find this very controversial, but at the end of the day, it is my opinion just to say, And I will get into why, because I have a lot to say. I could say more, like I have to edit out so much in these videos, because they literally would be an hour or two long. And I think people would just lose the will to live listening to me for an hour or two talk about each candidate and every policy under the sun. But you know the drill. You know what I've said, but immigration is my top priority, and it should be for the majority of people in this country. But again, that's just my personal view. If you disagree with me. But my number one vote is going to go to Councillor Sarah Wiley of Ain2. And I know people say straight away Ain2. And I understand, and straight away off the bat, I would say Ain2 should be a lot more tough on immigration. But at the same time, I have a lot of respect for Councillor Sarah, and I get into it now because I've thought about it. I've sat down and thought about it a lot. And particularly Sarah Wiley, there's a lot to say. There's generally a lot to say. I don't know where to start. But first of all, I've read to Councillor Sarah Wiley. I don't know, in the last... it's hard to know. It must be 50, 60, 70. It's a lot of issues I went to, even just about potholes, other stuff. People talk to me about different things. A good example just of that is there was bins down in one part of Cavan, the dog bins, and for years they were talking about doing it, and years and years and years, and we do it soon, we do it this and do that. But I got on the Council Sarah Wiley, and it was 10 o'clock at night one day, last year. It was 10 o'clock at night. And the one thing I say about Council Sarah Wiley, which is good in my books, is literally 10 o'clock at night that night, she got back to me saying, I'll look into it, I'll be back to you as soon as I can. Literally, 9 o'clock, 9:05 the next morning, I had an answer. And what I'm trying to say about that is, as soon as I ring Council Sarah Wiley, or I talk to her, email her, the next day, or an hour or two later, it's word there's something done. And everything I've read to her about, there was always something done. And that's what I like about it. It's simple as that. It's TDs and councils I've often rang and emailed, etc., etc. And I basically might as well talk to the wall, because it takes a month or two for them to even acknowledge that you've talked to them, or rang them about concerns. But with Sarah Wiley is different. It generally is 100%. And I think everybody, and that's why she gets elected in Cavan in the Available Cotillion Municipal Authority. And that's why she tops the poll, because she's doing a good job. She's doing a good job, and everybody says it. That as soon as they get in touch with her, straight away something's done. Like, there's no arsing about, there's no anything, there's just, it's done and dusted. And that's what we need. We need that. And I know people say Ain2 too, and I do agree, and I will just say this too, there should be a lot more tough on immigration. But in fairness to Councillor Sarah Wiley, and I say this straight, she talked about immigration and the problems with immigration. I heard it myself before any of them in Ain2 did, any of the other candidates in Ain2 did. She was the most vocal about it. And the only one in the county council, that's councillor at the moment in County Cavan, that spoke up about immigration before any of the rest of them did. It was the one voice in the county council, the 16 of them that's elected to Cavan County Council, the one voice was Sarah Wiley about immigration, the concerns about immigration, etc., etc. And I say that straight, and it is, and that's the reason why too, because she was the one councillor that had the guts in the council to stand up and say something about it, and that deserves a salute, to be totally honest, because it's hard to stand up in the crowd, it's hard to stand up from the group and speak out, and it's hard to stand up from 16 others and just be the one voice against. And I agree with that. And again, there's many other things I can go into, particularly about the cashless society. We talked about the GEA. Now, I get into this now in a second, but the GEA, particularly the county board here, wanted to have completely cashless during COVID, etc., etc., and even after COVID. And Sarah Wiley put an objection into that through the county council at the monthly meeting one month last year. And they sent the letter to the GEA, the county board, and they were fuming, the county board, over it, that she would dare challenge them on it. And she was the only one of them in the council that stood up and said something. She was the only one of them. The rest of them all hidden underneath the tables, to be totally honest, because none of the rest of them had anything to say about it. And she stood up and said about the cashless society, same as myself. And what she got back for them letters, sending them letters into the GEA, take for example, they said they would throw them in the bin. They wouldn't go to listen to the concerns of a councillor. But she kept pressing them, she kept pushing them, and she kept pushing them. And she was the only one that pushed them. The rest of the councillors had nothing to say about it. And she did. And in fairness, she did. She 100% did. And only for Sarah Wiley, I don't think they would have went back on the suggestion. And particularly, again, there was an awful thing they said too, to tear up the letters of concerns from councillors. But she kept at them. She didn't let it go. As simple as that. She didn't let it go. And I have a lot of respect for that. Because the West of them would probably let it go and forget about it. But she didn't let it go. And obviously too, that's why it's really came to an end within the county board. But I thought it was very ignorant. But still, at the end of the day, Council Sarah pressed forward and got it done, and that's what we need. And particularly, again, the one thing that's literally made up my mind now within the last week or two, particularly last month, you probably have seen about the man in Cavan with his mobile home out the back, for the house, and the council want to get. He doesn't have planning permission for it, even though it's on wheels and it can be mobile. It's not a structure. It can be moved. The only councillor, the only politician in Cavan at the moment that stood up for that man, and the only reason why none of the rest of them stood up because he's Irish, and that's the only way. We have to say it out straight. If it was anybody else from Timbuktu, they all would stand with him. But the only person that stood up for him and his two small children and his wife was Councillor Sarah Wiley, and that's as simple as that. The only reason why people know about it is because the Councillor Sarah Wiley told people about it, put it on the radio. That's the only reason why. 100% that's the only reason why. Because the Anglo-South and stuff wouldn't want to know it only for Councillor Sarah Wiley said something about it. And as simple as that. And I know it straight away. That was the only reason why. Only for Sarah Wiley bringing attention to people of it. Nobody would know about it. As simple as that. So in fairness, the Councillor, and that's the reason why. That's what turned me to vote for Councillor Sarah number one. Because of that. She stood up for your man. She was the only one. I hope none of the rest of the councils were nowhere to be found, or nowhere to be seen. Or even the people going for Dáil at the moment. A lot of the Fianna Fáil again, none of them were around to see your man or to talk to him or even stand up for him and speak up for him. And only for Sarah Wiley, that man would have been abandoned. Nobody would have spoke up for him. And only for Sarah Wiley was the only one of the public representatives around this area that spoke up for him. And I have huge respect for that. And as I said before, it's hard to speak out when you're only the one speaking out. But I have huge respect for her. And again, personally, she's always been very good to me. As I say, anytime I contacted her, a lot of times, let's put it that way, no issue whatsoever. Something's done straight away. Like, the one council I can guarantee, and I say this straight and I say this very truthfully, the one council I can guarantee that something would be done if I go to. Like, there never was a time I went to Sarah Wiley that nothing was ever done. That's what I'm trying to say. Never was. I can never think of it. There was always something done. With other councils, wishy-washy language. Sometimes sometimes things were done, sometimes weren't done. But with councils Sarah Wiley, there always was something done. And I do mean that. And I know as people say, Aontú is not, it should be a lot more tough on immigration, but the council Sarah Wiley is a lot more tougher than the majority of Aontú, to be totally honest, on immigration. And that's as simple as that. And not only that, and this is the main reason why too. As it says here, Councillor Sarah Wiley has the best chance of taking a seat off Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael. So that's another reason I would say to people in Cavan to vote, because she has the best chance of getting in, to get away Fine Gael seat or Fianna Fáil seat. And that's like what I take Sarah Wiley and Aontú over Fianna Fáil or Fine Gael, or God forbid Sinn Féin too. I take Aontú over them any day of the week. And not to mention too, it was just when I'm thinking of it too, she's pro-life too, and she used to be in Sinn Féin, etc., etc. But I as somebody that's pro-life myself, I have huge respect for that, because there's not many politicians sitting on the council that's pro-life and that actively speaks up for family values, etc., etc., which I do appreciate a lot, and I'm sure Councillor Sarah Wiley knows that. But I do appreciate enough that there is a voice on the local council that actually cares about unborn children, etc., etc. That means a lot to me, and it should mean a lot to a lot of people who are pro-life. Not to mention too, she's always a very focused supporter of farmers in our county. She's always been backing them to the hilt, and I have a lot of respect for that. And then obviously too, she was the only councillor, along with Brendan Fay, the councillor out here in Baltobert. She was the only councillor that spoke up against the family care referendum on the county council. The rest of them were all saying we need to vote yes, yes, and yes. And Councillor Sarah Wiley was the only voice here. There was, apart from Brendan Fay, as I say, that spoke up. The only person that spoke up to say to the people, you're being conned here. And it's simple as that. And that's what it was. The whole referendum was a con. And it was all about wokeness, etc., etc. And, and she was right in saying that. And I think everybody agrees with that. That was, we dodged the bullet with that one. But not so much, just to emphasise, going back to the local town election, was a candidate from my area for Aontú. I wouldn't have voted for him, to be told. So Grania McPhillips is the other Aontú candidate. Even though, again, I would say about Grania McPhillips, she's not the worst person, but I don't think she has the guts of Sarah Wiley to speak up and stand up. And I do think she's the best possible person we could elect in our county to Dáil to represent. And she's proven, and again, this is the thing I'd say, she's proven. And I'm sure the people of Bayable Catil would agree with me, because she's she's got thousands of votes. Oh, like, literally, it's insane. Like, she doesn't even have to sweat, because she just gets elected straight away. And that's a good sign. You don't even have to worry about it, because you get so many votes you don't know what to do with them. It's insane the amount of votes you get, and it's good to see it, because Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael don't know what to do about it in that area. because she gets that many votes. But that just shows you, the people in that area think she's doing a very, very good job. And I agree, and I think the majority of people in Cavan would agree with that too. So that's the reason why, and as I say, that's the reason why I'm voting for Sarah Wiley. And I know people criticise me for voting into. And again, as I say, she is I think the difference in into, to be totally honest. As I said, with the two other candidates for into that were for the local authority elections, I wouldn't have voted for them. But I do think Sarah Wiley is the best of the best of into, to be totally honest. And really should be the leader of into. I nearly would say we had to kick Paddy Tobin out, but I'm not going as far as that. But definitely she should be the deputy leader of into. Because she should become a future leader of into too. Because I do think she's a very good candidate, and I do think she's a very good person. I think that's the main thing. What I'm trying to say is, the long-winded story, I can trust them. Basically, I can trust them. And that's, if it's good enough for me, it should be good enough for the majority of people in Cavan. I can trust 100%. And if this falls back, I take responsibility. But 100% I can trust them. 100%. And I wouldn't say it here if I didn't believe it. Because I've thought very heavily about it. And I've sat down and I've thought about it 100 million times over at this stage. I've thought more than the only Joe about it. And she is a good... And I, again, personally knowing her for a good while, etc., etc. I know she's a good person. She has a good heart. And she's a good, hard-working person. And that's what we need. We need a good, hard-working person that's a decent person in the Dáil, and that's what you get. Simple as that. Voting for Councillor Sarah White, that's what you will get. And I can't emphasise that enough, because I wouldn't be speaking so highly of somebody if I didn't think they were good. Simple as that. And I'm sure we would agree. I don't say things if I don't mean it, and that's what I mean. And I've seen it, and she's putting, again, all the things I've said here, I've shown pints and pints and pints over everything she's done, and this is only half of the things. I could go on for another hour talking about different other issues, small local issues that she's been involved with, that she's done. But I'm sure people get the point. Like, she has stood up for people when the cash was taken out of the GA. She stood up for people in Cavan, even though people as I say, the GA were fighting back a bit, I suppose, against it. But only for her, it wouldn't be in now that we have people can pay cash, and not to mention then obviously looking after many different sections of Cavan too. If the farmers take, for example, many times, I could go on and on and on and on. You get what I'm saying? But her record speaks for herself. That's what I'm trying to say. The record speaks, and that's what's important to me. But I do suggest to people, and again, I do suggest that you vote for Councillor Sarah Wiley number 1 or Val Martin number 2. I'm giving Val Martin number 2. Yeah, but if you wish to give him one, even Val Martin number 1, Sarah Wiley number 2, Lester Gordon number 3, take us at Mark Malone number 4, whichever way you wish. But I do suggest, and I do very heavily suggest to the people of Cavan and Monaghan, to vote these people in. These people that I suggest, these 6 candidates. I do take to the pick of it. And I know people would say, but independent Ireland. I simply could not. I know some people will vote for them, and it's entitlement. But I simply could not, in good conscience, vote for them after what Ciaran Mullooney did. That's as simple as that. So, yes, I don't know what people think. Let me know what you think if you're from Cavan and who you're going to vote for. And as I say, of course, I would love to see the 3 candidates I picked out for the 3 top places. I would love to see them get elected to Dáil Éireann. Of course. But the main thing I do take is to use your vote wisely. Because again, Councillor Sarah Wiley, in my opinion, and Val Mountain has the best chance, along with Lester Gordon. Them 3 has the best chance of winning a seat to Dáil Éireann. So that's what I'm taking off to, who has the best chance of getting in. To use your vote strategically. And that's what I take. That they have the best chance. Them 3 have the best chance. Now, if you disagree with me, you disagree with me. That's democracy. But I'm just saying my opinion again. I've thought about it for a long time. Don't worry about it. I've literally thought about it for a long time. It's not just about spare at the moment. So, whatever the way you take, please do use your vote. Use your vote to the people of Cavan, and even the people of Ireland. Get out and vote on Friday. The future of the country is at stake. Generally, it's the most important election for the last probably 20 years. It's very important. It's generally very important to this county that the white people get elected. For too long, there's been people that don't really have much care for what happens in this county. But I would say to people, do. And particularly, again, one thing I'd just say before, when I thought about it, Councillor Sarah Wiley wanted no hate speech. Was the only candidate too that spoke up against the hate speech bill in the county council. So straight away, 100%, that's good in my books. Because because the rest of them, Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael and Sinn Féin, all for it. So yeah, please do consider that.